Welcome to our last and final day for Global Plant-Forward. Thanks for being a part of what I hope you felt has been so far a really dynamic, engaging experience. I hope you're learning some things, having the opportunity to also just, it seems like there's a lot of camaraderie in the room, and so thank you for being here. So, and also thank you to the California Walnut Board and Commission for sponsoring breakfast. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Magnus Young, the chef de cuisine from Clif Family Winery Farm, just down the road from us in St. Helena. And it is always a pleasure for us to work with our alumni. Today we're going to talk about new frontiers for plant-forward deliciousness. And at Clif Family Wine and Farm, they are possibly the first winery to commit to a plant-forward menu. And so Magnus is going to talk about that. He's going to demo a couple of dishes, talk about their farm, talk about creating a menu, with both a garden but also a whole portfolio of wine, just really excited to have him here. So I'm going to hand it over to Chef Magnus Young.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. Good morning, everybody. So I work at Clif Family Winery and Farm in St. Helena, as she mentioned. We do have a big part of our brand is wine, food, and farming, and then tying those items together. So we have a pretty extensive portfolio of wine that we offer 21 different varieties that we're producing locally in Napa Valley at our vineyards in the Oak Knoll district, as well as up on Howell Mountain. And then we're sourcing some grapes from Mendocino as well. Part of our experience is at the winery is pairing those wines with different foods, and one of the challenges that we started running into is we're starting to see a lot more of a market for plant-based, but having a menu that was designed specifically to pair with the different wines that we offer made that kind of difficult to kind of adapt on the fly. So rather than being reactive to the guests coming in and having to basically come up with something on the fly, we decided that we were going to design a program specifically to cater to their needs to make sure that they can get the best possible experience without sacrificing the pairing. So the first dish I'm going to demonstrate is going to be smoked carrots with carrot romesco and the carrot top gremolata. This is all coming to us from our farm up on Howell Mountain. So we want to use as much of the product as we can. So for the carrots themselves, just going to coat lightly with a little bit of olive oil and some salt. And then a little drizzle of honey. This is one of our products as well from our pantry line of items, our raw honey. And what I find is that the honey not only adds a little bit of sweetness to the carrots themselves, thank you, Chef, but it does help the smoke cling to it a little bit better. Now, while we do have a smoker in our kitchen, you can kind of fashion sort of a rigged smoker just with a hotel pan that's perforated and some soaked wood chips. So I'm just going to use this torch to ignite it. Okay, there we go. We have some smoke action there. Gonna throw in the carrots in a perforated pan so that air can circulate around them. Oh, thank you. And then I just want to cover it, and I'm gonna be careful while doing this so I don't burn myself. All right. And then what we end up with is something that's been smoked, so it has a light smoky flavor to it. And this is one of the things that We've been trying to, recover from that sort of meaty, savory flavor that you get from a little bit of smokiness, but we're also going to add some char to these carrots. But first, I'll work on the romesco sauce for it. So I'm just going to let that heat up a little bit here before I get started. While that's going, I can start adding items to my food processor. So this is just some roasted bell peppers. I've peeled them already. I can go right in. And this is one of our pantry line items, our organic smoked Spanish pimenton almonds. This I'm going to use as part of the base for my romesco. Thank you.
Is it on? Okay, there we go. So it seems like at Clif, this sort of ethos of farm to table, it starts with your garden, but it goes through all of the areas that you have. So you're talking about, what are they, the almonds that you just put in there? And so can you talk about that, how you're thinking about that in terms of the farm and then taking it throughout the various parts of the winery?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our 5-acre certified organic farm on Howell Mountain, which we're receiving produce from year-round. So we do cook as seasonally as possible with that in mind. For our pantry items, some of it is coming to us from different partners that we work with. The nuts we do not grow on our farm, but they are coming from Central California. And we do like to showcase our pantry items as well, as they are sold in our kitchen. So just as something additional, through kind of a value-added program that we offer, we like to kind of showcase those ingredients in our recipes. So traditionally, romesco is going to have some bread in it, but we've also found that with a lot of people edging towards a plant-based diet, they're straying from gluten as well. So for this recipe, we're using the carrots themselves to add a little bit of sweetness and body to the romesco. I'm going to add some tomato paste to it, just to get a little bit of color, add some savoriness, some body. Thank you. And just a little bit of cayenne for spice. I'm going to add some salt. Now what I'm looking for here is just to kind of soften up my ingredients, bring out some of the sweetness, release those aromatics, but get a little bit of color on that tomato paste and kind of take some of the starchiness out of it. And then from this point, once I get them a little bit more color, I'm going to add it straight to the food processor, and we're going to pulse it until it's smooth. So just a little bit further.
And so how long is the food truck is a new addition.
The food truck we've had since 2014. And that was started with our executive chef, John McConnell. And that was kind of a passion project as well from our founders, Kit and Gary, based off of their travels to Italy. They'd go on a lot of cycling trips, and then they'd see these refugios on the side of the road, which would kind of offer a wine and bruschetta pairing, which is kind of where they took that idea from, and they wanted to introduce that to Napa Valley. All right, so I think we're good here. I'm just going to carefully add this to our food processor. Thank you, Chef. So I'm going to add some sherry vinegar to this as well for a little acidity. All right, now we got that relatively smooth. I do like to keep it a little bit chunky still for just kind of a slightly rustic appearance. Thank you.
And I'll say to the audience, we'll use Slido if you have any questions, so pop it in there.
All right, so we've got our cast iron pan heating up here now. And while that's going, we can make our gremolata. So I've got some olive oil here. This is going to be parsley. We have the chopped carrot tops from the carrots themselves. A little bit of garlic, just grated on a microplane. We have some preserved Meyer lemon. This is another product from our farm that we preserve in our kitchen, just heavily in salt. A little bit of lemon zest for some additional citrus flavor. I'm just going to give that a stir. A lot of the salt in this is going to be coming from the preserved Meyer lemon. All right, now our cast iron should be pretty hot. I'm just looking for a little bit of char on this. I'm not looking to completely blast it because these are fully cooked at this point after smoking. And I do want them to have some texture to them.
And we do have a question from the audience.
Uh-huh.
How do you balance between new menu items each day and classic flavors that pair really well with your wines that you serve?
That is a bit of a challenge at times, but I mean, when we come up with a dish, we try to keep it through a season. So as long as we're getting that product from our farm, we'll be running that on the menu. And when we do come up with a pairing, it's kind of there's a few of us that collaborate together on it. We'll sit down, we'll taste the wine, and we'll taste the dish, and then and we can kind of propose a dish to pair with a certain wine based on the flavor profile of that wine, but also kind of what we're looking for in the dish. So I'm just going to make a base now here for our carrots. Now we're getting some deeper color on there, not quite char, but need this to get really hot.
And how involved are you in working with the farmers to decide what's grown?
So I work quite closely with our farm manager, Tessa Henry. We do a kind of a crop planning session at the beginning of every year where she decides what seed she's going to purchase for the following season. And then we kind of, after each harvest, we also will offer feedback. I go on a tour up there with her once a month where she can kind of showcase what's coming down the pipeline and, the quality of the produce that's coming our way. We can talk about how we want stuff harvested, or look for specific, cover crops or something sometimes she uses that we can use as a garnish, just to see what we can get from, every part of our farm. So now I've got some good caramelization on them. Gonna lay it down on the plate. And then just gonna take our gremolata here and just kind of scatter it around over top. All right, and that is our smoked carrot dish. All right. Perfect. Next, I'm going to demonstrate roasted brassicas with butterbean hummus. So we grow a variety of different brassicas at our farm. Right now, I'm using cauliflower and sprouting broccoli. I like to have kind of a mix in there, and I like to use the full leaves as well. I find that this part is almost my favorite because they get a little crispy as you roast them. They're almost like a little chip. So just a little combination of them. I'm going to use some olive oil here just to get them lightly coated. Give those a toss. Some salt. I'm going to roast these at about 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. I'm just looking for some pretty deep caramelization on them and crispiness. Oh, thank you. All right, next I'll work on the hummus here. So I've got some butter beans here. These are butter beans that we grow up on our farm as well. Some garlic. Yes, I soaked them overnight and then just boiled them. All right. Thank you. A little tahini. Olive oil. Cumin. Thank you. And this is one of our hot sauces that we make at our farm as well, or from our farm peppers, rather. Lemon juice for some acidity. And this is a fun one for us here as well. This is butterbean miso. So we're making this from our farm butter beans as well, and we're using West Coast koji out of Southern California to make this. So it takes about 3 months or so, about 10% salt, and then 6% of the koji that we use in the recipe. So it is a bit of a timely process. You can also substitute shiro miso for this. I like to add the miso to it for a big savory boost that you might crave out of a protein-forward item. So I have all those ingredients together now. I'm just going to get this nice and smooth. All right, so once I have that at a smooth consistency, I can go ahead and spread this down on the plate.
And while you do that, we have a question that asks, were you always a plant-forward chef? And if not, could you talk about your transition? And then also, they wanted to know what wine would you serve with the carrot dish?
Yeah, so I haven't always been a plant-forward chef. I still wouldn't necessarily say I am to this day. While I can, and I enjoy cooking plant-forward, I, don't stray away from proteins myself all that much. But it kind of, I started it doing more of it within the last couple of years, as it started to become more of a, a hot item amongst our guests. And for these dishes, the romesco, I would pair with our estate Zinfandel, but of course any Zinfandel. It's kind of like the idea behind that, having that smokiness is kind of the barbecue flavor aspect of it, which goes quite well with Zinfandel. So I'm just going to kind of pile these around, creating a nice little mound.
And there's a question about the miso. Is it all bean or is there any grain in it?
The only grain would be coming from the rice, which is added. It's rice that's been inoculated with Aspergillus oryzae, so a specific strain of mold that you can use for making misos, but adds a lot of savory flavor as well. So at this point here, my dish is almost finished. I'm going to take some fresh mint and just tear it over top to add a little burst of freshness. I've got some lemony olive oil here. It's just lemon juice and olive oil mixed together as kind of another finishing garnish. And then this is going to be za'atar spice that we make in-house as well, using some dried herbs from our farm. We have Nepentella mint, which is kind of like it's kind of like a cross between mint and oregano. And then we have some dried thyme, sumac, toasted sesame, and cumin in here. And I'm just going to dust it over the plate as such. And that's the dish. Oh, sorry.
So we have another question for you. With the growing prevalence of dietary restrictions, how do you approach preparing for the wide variety of needs of your customers?
Well, the biggest ones that we see on a daily basis are plant-based, gluten-free, dairy-free. So with those in mind, we kind of just use those as our limiting factors to creating a dish. And we can make a dish that does have those items as well. We mostly, when we're doing the plant-based items, we're trying to come up with a suitable counterpart to that. So not everything we offer is necessarily plant-based. Our food truck is kind of a catch-all, a little bit more of a casual spot. Stuff like this, these types of dishes we do in our enoteca, which is a little bit more white tablecloth, a little bit more of a curated experience for guests looking for a specific pairing. Whereas the food truck guests, when they come by, they're just walking up and they can order whatever they like off our menu, which we do have plant-based items, we have gluten-free items, we have dairy-free, but we're also working with a local creamery that's kind of doing everything plant-based. So when we do like a cheese board or something like that in the winery, where we're looking to pair some of our preserves and then cheeses with a wine, we'll also do a plant-based version of that flight.
That sounds great. And can you also talk about sustainability initiatives that you have at the winery?
Yeah, so we were actually, this was just as of this week, we finally became B Corp certified. This was something we've been working towards for a few years now. But in terms of plant-based, in terms of sustainability, we do our best to utilize the full product. When you see in these dishes here, I'm using root to shoot kind of techniques to implement every ingredient that I can into the dish themselves. In terms of our farm, we're operating completely organically. We don't spray, anything like that. We're just employing the use of cover crops. All of our compost from the kitchen well, at least the or the vegetable matter we send back up to our farm for them to use as compost. And then just limiting our, any way that we can kind of reduce our impact on the environment and how we operate as a kitchen, we try to use those routes, whether it be limiting our use of non-reusable containers, appliance use in the kitchen. We're, restricting the amount of, gas we're using to power our appliances if we can. But yeah.
That sounds great. And if we could take it back to the koji, do you have a larger fermentation program? Are you starting to incorporate those things, or is that just something?
We have a few. It's not a large program for us. It's just little side projects we do in the kitchen in an effort to preserve some of the produce we get from our farm. And this, again, going back to sustainability, we receive sometimes a lot more produce than what we can use in a given week. So we'll find different ways that we can preserve that item, whether we ferment it, dry it, pickle it, or can it, just so that we can use it for, maybe some of our summer tomatoes that we've canned, we can, implement in another way later in the year.
That sounds great. And also, in terms of when you're talking root to shoot, what techniques are you sort of leaning on? What kind of R&D do you have to do? Can you talk about that process as you're trying to use every part of the vegetable? Even within your protein program.
In terms of, a lot of it comes down to utilizing a part of a vegetable that might otherwise go discarded. When we receive our carrots, when we receive our turnips, radishes, whatever, and they always come with the tops, and I find that more often than not, those tops do not get utilized. So we've been working on ways that we can kind of funnel those back into our program. If we don't have time or a dish that we have in mind for that to become a part of, there's different techniques that we can use, just so that we have it, in our larder. So we'll have, so we can either dry, so when we'll use a food dehydrator, and then we can pulverize it into like a powder that we can use, like make a little green powder to add to a plate, or for the radish tops or turnip tops, I actually really like using them to make kimchi. So we'll make a batch of kimchi that uses all tops, for example. Or for the carrot tops there, used it for the gremolata. I added parsley as well, just because I like that herbaceous forward flavor that parsley adds to it. But I do like the little bit of earthiness that the carrot tops add as well.
And one last question. So in terms of the future of Clif Winery and your farm, and what sort of upcoming projects do you have going on, or is there anything you're really sort of excited about or wanting to incorporate?
Well, I mean, we're always looking towards the potential that maybe one day we could expand into a brick and mortar situation rather than using our food truck primarily. But we have no definite timeline on what that looks like or when that may happen. But that is something that I've always kind of been looking forward to. In terms of our farm, I mean, I'm excited. I'm always excited to look through the seed catalog with Tessa to kind of plan for new crops to use in the following year. We have our program we do every Wednesday. We call it Street Food Napa Valley, where our cooks each take a turn, kind of doing a limited menu addendum to our already set menu. And this will be like a different cuisine from around the world that they want to explore. And I'll coach them through that process as well. So they're not just going in, blind and trying to take on a new dish that they've never tried. But it is kind of one of our techniques to for our younger chefs to get a chance to, expand beyond what they do in their everyday to day.
Is this one on? Okay. And I guess I lied when I said that was the last question because I have one more. Since you brought up mentorship and younger chefs, Chef Rebecca, who's always just our crack, she's just such a great part of our programs, was actually your teacher in school.
Yeah, she was my cuisines of Europe and the Mediterranean, as well as high volume production. So super fun to be working with her behind the stage again.
Yeah, so I guess it's rather just a statement rather than a question, but I think it just shows the incredible mentorship here at the CIA, and to come full circle. And that wasn't something when we brought Chef Magnus on for the program, didn't know that, so that was something I just learned this morning, and so it's just kind of a nice moment, you know? But anyway, help me thank Chef Magnus Young, great demo.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that it's always a pleasure to bring in faculty and alumni. They are, so many of them leading in the plant-forward world, so we're always proud to work with them. So now we're going to go to a video. The Culinary Institute of America is proud to present Mushrooms in the Plant-Forward Kitchen, a new video educational series developed to inform chefs about the many ways to incorporate mushrooms into global plant-forward cooking. We'll watch a short video to introduce the session or the series.
The creativity and culinary expertise of today's chefs show us that plant-forward dishes can be craveable to even the most dedicated carnivores. Mushrooms play a powerful role, both as a solution for chefs and a path to guest satisfaction. Their meaty texture, savory flavor, nutritional profile, and versatility bring a wide variety of applications to plant-forward menus. Whether it's swapping meat with mushrooms entirely for a plant-based meal, or blending meat with mushrooms to make the dish more sustainable, nutritious, and delicious with their flavor-lifting umami, utilizing mushrooms in plant-forward cooking is a strategy that every chef can master. The Culinary Institute of America is proud to present Mushrooms in the Plant-Forward Kitchen, a video education series developed to inform chefs about the many ways to incorporate mushrooms into global plant-forward cooking. In this series, we'll demonstrate recipes like Korean mushroom bibimbap, Mexican street food-inspired mushrooms al pastor, Japanese mushroom katsu, and spicy Indian mushroom and lamb meatballs. The tuition-free videos and recipes are available on the plantforwardkitchen.org website, thanks to the generous sponsorship and support of the Mushroom Council. This educational program is also part of the Culinary Institute of America's Plant-Forward Kitchen Training and Certification Program, an online course that educates chefs about plant-forward, sustainable cooking techniques. So join us as we learn how to utilize mushrooms in the kitchen to successfully enhance and transform our cooking in this online course.
This educational program is a part of the Culinary Institute of America's Plant-Forward Kitchen Training and Certification Program, an online training course that educates chefs about plant-forward sustainable cooking techniques. Fortunately for us, these videos and recipes are also available for anyone to access on the plantforwardkitchen.org website, thanks to the generous sponsorship and support of the Mushroom Council. And now, so this is the last time that we'll all be together in this room before we go to breakouts. And so just a couple of housekeeping notes. And let's see, here we're gonna do, okay. We, of course, if you've been with us before, you know we'll send you an email with a link to Summit resources. So I know some of you have come up to me and asked, you know, where we get recipes, and you know, so we'll put together a booklet for you. We'll also send you a survey, and I always say at our events that you know, this is one of the best ways that we really get feedback from you. We appreciate, so many of you have come up to us personally just to say things, but we take these seriously. We use them when we're looking to programming the next year, and are always trying to make this just the best, most engaging experience for you. So we'd love if you could take some time, and I think they're in the app, and then we'll probably also send that in the follow-up email. And so just wanted to remind you, while you're here, you get your 10% off select merchandise at our marketplace. Lots of great things there, from books to even products for kids. And I think, whether it's some jealous coworkers who you're going to go back to, or family and friends who didn't get to experience the Napa sunshine, maybe you want to pop in there and grab something. And if you're around, it's always a great idea to have dinner at the Grove. And then to remind you that we have menus of change coming up, and you will get your 15% off code. And then also in November, our Worlds of Flavor conference and festival. And then I just wanted to take a couple of moments to have some final remarks, and then I'll bring Rupa back up. But I wanted to say that it's been just a real pleasure to be with you for the 2023 Global Plant-Forward. It seems like we start planning for these things, and it will never come, and then it comes, and I'm like, how did this happen? And then it's also just like it happens too fast, and then you're gone. So appreciate you coming and being really engaged, and lots of great questions and energy. I want to thank all of our presenters. I think they knocked it out of the park this year. So if we could give them a round of applause, I'd appreciate that. And thank you to our team here at Copia Strategic Initiatives Group, our operations team, always stellar, and a special shout out to our culinary team, led by Gabby Rayson in the absence of our executive chef, Tony Sakaguchi. It was, everything went off without a hitch, and it was just a real pleasure. So if you could help me thank them too. They were really under the gun this year. And then I think it just was a real pleasure to see the schedule in action, sort of starting off with the big ideas of biodiversity and a real call to action and an energy around what can we do to save these biodiverse ingredients, that are really there to also just make our planet healthier, and to have as a thread throughout this the idea that we need to honor and learn from the cultures and communities that have really been doing plant-forward cooking for so long, just without that moniker. And then to just see all the delicious recipes, to see, the new techniques, to think about how we incorporate these things into our menus, and just the, we have so much these days, I think, coming out of the pandemic, that weigh on us, and one of those is planetary health, is thinking about climate change, is, thinking about the fragility of our food and supply systems. And something for me that is always really inspirational is when I hear Farmer Luke Peterson talk about what he's doing, and other people like him. Part of why we bring people together here is to be inspired, and so I'm inspired by the work that they're doing. And I think anytime I get a chance to be with people who are on the ground, or in, even in like our large global corporations, like it seems like there is this opportunity for real hope. So just very excited to go into our kitchen workshops, and that is we will take a short break. I'm going to bring Rupa up, but I will say that our breakout sessions will start promptly at 9:30. And again, you'll look on the back of your badge for where you're going. We have sessions here in EcoLab, and then we have our kitchen workshops on floor 2 with Roxana Julipat and Easta Belfridge in Heston Kitchen. And then after that, we'll have lunch from the food that they will cook in the kitchen workshops. So now I'm going to bring up Rupa, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm not going to take long. Jennifer basically said everything better than I could. Hi, everyone. This has just been such a great 3 days, and I'm so glad you were all here to join us. I was personally just blown away by the caliber of chefs and presenters and the work that they were putting out, and the thoughts people were having, the way that people, and the thoughts and the intention with which people were exploring the way that they bring plant-forward foods from either cuisines that have existed forever or new ideas to their menus, and how they do it and how they bring them to their diners in ways that make the diners feel like they're seen and welcomed and included, and any choice they make is supported. So that was really remarkable for me for over these 3 days, and I'm really excited for this final round of breakouts and seminars. Also would like to reiterate, even though once again Jennifer did it better, her praise and thanks to the incredible strategic initiatives team that made all of this happen. So Jennifer, of course, our other program director, Allison Ryder, who joined us for a couple special sessions, our ops team led by Christina Adamson, Shara Oram, the sponsorship team, who are also doubling as photography, Tom Bensel and everybody at Copia. One more massive hand for the kitchen team, in particular Gabby and Chef Rebecca, who powered through this week while our executive chef was down with COVID. But also a huge shout out to Chef Tony too, because she put together such a tight and intentional plan that could be executed in the face of challenges even when she wasn't there. And as all of you chefs know, that is not nothing. That is no small feat. So hand for Chef Tony as well. We miss her very much. Thank you so much to all of the sponsors, without whom none of this could have happened. Thank you to all of you for taking the time away from your businesses and your lives to join us here. I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you could be here. Like Jennifer said, we'll be seeing you hopefully at Menus of Change at our Hyde Park campus in June. That lineup's looking really, really tight. Much like this conference was very much a deep dive into the culture and culinary side of plant-forward dining, Menus of Change is going to be sort of the converse of that, which will lean heavily into the business side. So for those of you who are running sort of operations, that's really going to be the conference where we're going to dig deep into sort of business cases, case studies, the implementation of plant-forward dining. And then we'll be back here in November for Worlds of Flavor for the topic of authenticity, which is also stacking up to be very, very exciting. So I hope we'll see you there. I think that's it from me. Thank you all so much once again. We're going to go to quick break, seminars, workshops, and then we will see you all back up at the Heston Kitchen at noon for lunch. Thank you very much.